Hey, hi. I was just curious. I've walked around. I can't find a game, like a racing game that maybe like has different cars in it. Like maybe some, possibly maybe manufactured by a company called Subaru. Maybe you've heard of them. Hello everyone and welcome to another Otaku Go review here on the Gunpla network, a series where we're taking a look at otaku culture stuff, namely mostly so far figurines, but maybe in the future we'll get some other stuff too. Today we thought it'd be topical to take a look at the Taito Station uniform version of Rim from ReZero. There are also two Hatsune Miku figures of different Taito Station uniforms that are getting increasingly hard to find as at least one of their big stores in Akihabara has closed down. Now, they didn't give an exact reason, but since Sega had also closed their big Akihabara arcade down, it's probably due to the pandemic, but that's just speculation. These are getting somewhat harder to find, but I think that possibly there are still a few Taito Station arcades open, but with one of their big stores closing, undoubtedly it will be harder to find this and the Mikus that are out there. Now, in terms of this is actually one of my favorite figures, just purely from a texturing standpoint. The uniform, since it's made to look denim, is done very well with a series of very thin lines being etched throughout it, giving it a very different textured look than the pants, the undershirt, or the red accent pieces of the uniform. It's very cool looking. We'll look in more detail in a minute, but overall, it's very nice. You get some interesting splashes of color with the red and the orange down on the feet. You have some white here and there for all the clasps and the logos, as well as the maid portions of Rim. And then, of course, you get Rim with her blue hair and very blue eyes. Now, in terms of the details of this figure, kind of getting a closer look here, the head sculpt is done very well. If you like Rim, you're likely going to like this, as her head sculpt is pretty on par with that of other Rim figures I have seen. While I'm not a huge fan of ReZero and I haven't finished the series all the way through, I can appreciate a good waifu, and Rim is definitely up there. Now, face sculpt is very well done. The painting is very well done. There is some separation on the head, which may just be mine, but with prize figures, you run that risk a little higher than some other figurines. You do have some gapping on the side, and with the little bow hair clasp thingy on the top of her head, I'm sure there's an actual name for that, but I don't know what it is. On the other side, you do have the red bow and the red X ribbon holding her hair so that you can see one of her eyes, and it looks very, very well done. As we move down, we get to see the texturing I was talking about for the denim on the collar with some nice gold brown lining there with a button that carries on throughout the kit and is very consistent. You'll get a better look in a moment, but if anything was going to be a paint issue, I would have thought it would have been this, but overall the lining for this gold brown is done incredibly well. You do get that texturing broken up by the red, which is kind of a solid, more matte finish. You do have her name tag as well as the Taito Station logo. Both look very nice, very detailed. You also have that same logo on the arms. That looks like a clasp, but there's not a big bunch up of fabric there, so maybe that's just kind of a design thing and not actually a functional part of the uniform. But I'm not here to really critique the Taito Station uniform, just this representation of it with Rim. As we move down the body, though, we will get to continue to see that golden lining all the way down to the skirt. Very consistent, flows very well from one piece to the other, moves over each portion of the body. You see it curve down the side, you see it go over the chest and down, and you see it wrap around the waist. You see kind of the same thing down on the skirt. There's only one back pocket, which I'm not sure if that's like a thing with denim skirts, but it's very well done in terms of the gold brown stitching on it. You see some more gold brown buttons on the front, with her little maid skirt thingy, whatever that is, popping out of the shirt in the front and the tails popping out of the back, which lift the shirt just a little bit and add some nice rippling effect in the back of the figurine. You also get some nice black undershirt that is very matte, which is very nice, has some rippling of its own, adds a different visual element here, and kind of knowingly very kind of Subaru-y looking, which I may be wrong, because like I said, I'm not the biggest ReZero fan in the world, but I do, kind of I think Subaru's colors are like orange and black, so that may be a play on that, or it could just be maybe part of the Taito station uniform. Not 100% sure, but I think it is an interesting choice there. And since they're mixing kind of both Rim and this uniform, maybe that's a little play on that. Not sure, but you also do get the little microphone headset thing that is fairly nicely detailed. Not a lot of paint on it, it's just a solid piece of black plastic, but it is cool that it is there as a little bit of extra visual interest. As we move down to the legs, we're pleasantly surprised by the shoes having a splash of orange, which is very uniquely ReZero as well. Like I said, pretty sure Subaru's colors are orange and black, so probably a play on that. And helps add some distinction down there towards the feet, as the base is also pretty interesting looking, and we'll look at that in a moment. The pants are the same basic kind of material that the undershirt is. You have some wrinkling in there, which is very nice detail-wise. And then the little clasps on the side of the legs with the Taito Station logo. Rim is in kind of like a jumping pose here, so only one foot is connected via a piece of plastic to the base. But overall, each portion is well done. The legs, of course, are probably going to be the most lacking in texturing, but you do get that extra splash of color with the orange, so it is kind of a nice balance. Now, as we kind of move through, you get to see kind of the consistency more in detail here, and you get to see that lining a little bit better. There's some stitching looking type things going on, you get to see the buttoning, you get to see the fairly consistent paint work, and just this texturing is just super something I'm into. I cannot explain as to specifically why, but I think it is very well done and it's very unique, incredibly different from any of the other figurines I have on my shelf. Even the other Rim and Ram I have, which we'll see later in this review, are not this visually interesting. They are very unique in their own right, but this texturing is something that I've not seen on a lot of other figurines, and it's something that just drew me to this figure in particular. It is very well done and generally consistent. Like I said, there's not a lot of fudging or messing around with any of this. It's very consistent for a price figurine. I haven't had a lot of issues with it. Really, the only things being on the head with some of the gapping in the hair, and there's a little red scuff mark on mine as well, but it is kind of hard to see, and we'll take a better look at it at some point in this review. Maybe I've already shown the picture of it. We'll kind of see as I go through in editing. But generally, this is probably one of my favorite looking kits, or figurines in general, and it is solely down to that texturing. If you're not really caught by this texturing, you're probably not going to be a big fan of this unless you like Rim. But if you like Rim, if you like kind of unique looking uniforms, because there are a few different uniformed variants of Rim and Ram. Now, Rim is the only one that got this treatment, but I think ANA, the Japanese airline, also has uniform versions of them as like stewardesses. And I think there's maybe another, they like to come in sets of costumes. Like the other ones I have are the Arabian Nights version. So, yeah, there are a lot of different versions of these waifus, as a bunch of people are very into them. And Ram kind of gets partnered with Rim, as Rim is kind of, from my understanding, the favorite. But generally, there are not a lot of issues to complain about here. For its price point, originally not terrible. You're looking kind of $30 being pretty reasonable for my opinion. But as I said, Taito Station closing one of their major stores, this is probably going to be harder to find. So just keep that in mind as you're looking. You may have to look secondhand. It's really not the hardest thing to find, but as time goes on, it's going to get harder to find. The price is going to go up. So just think about that if this is something that you like. Now, in terms of comparisons to the Rim and Ram of the Arabian Nights versions. You get to see the difference here with Rim, and honestly, like I said, head sculpt-wise, they're pretty similar. The gradient is a little different on the hair. It goes more into a white on the Arabian Nights version, whereas the Taito Station version kind of goes to a clear, but it's very immediate towards the end of the hair on the front for the bangs. But that's kind of it. Outside of that, it really is a personal preference. I think that both look really good. I think if you do the Arabian Nights version, though, you probably want to get Ram with it just because they look really good as a set, and it makes me wish we would have got Ram in the kind of Taito Station uniform version. And speaking of Ram, here she is with her sister, and they still look good together. So even if you do have a display and you don't have a partner for this one, she's not going to stand out too much. She is very unique. Though, honestly, if you're a ReZero fan, if you're a Rim fan, this is definitely something you're going to want to keep an eye out for and try to pick up. If you're a fan of interesting uniformed figurines like the Hatsune Mikus I mentioned earlier, something to look out for as well. If you couldn't care less about ReZero or Rim or uniformed figures, this one may not be for you, so go ahead and kind of tune out. But generally speaking, one of my favorites, very visually interesting. The sculpt is on point, the paint is on point, just cannot get enough of this figurine. If you have any questions about it, please leave them down in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them. And as always, friends, I've been the Spicer here on Otaku Go on the Gunpla Network. Please do your best to stay safe and keep on collecting.